Hey, welcome back to the House of Trauma podcast. It's me, your favorite podcast host, Kiana Brienne. Now let's get into it. Dear Black people, it's time to wake up. In all honesty, we are well past the time to wake up and start taking action to take control of our community and release some of this chaos. So in part one of the Dear Black People series, I posed the question, what tangible steps can you take to help change your community? Well, what steps can you take? What steps are you going to take? Do you want to take any steps to heal the community? And the reason I asked, do you want to take any steps? Because part of the problem is half of us don't even acknowledge that there is a problem. We as a community, as a whole, as a one, have an unwillingness to change because we don't see it as a problem. Our complacency and ignorance leads to generational curses and leads to genealogical trauma and self-hate. We consistently get in these vicious cycles that we repeat over and over and over again, and no one ever has these tough conversations. The reason we can't fight the real enemy is because we're too busy fighting ourselves. In one of my past episodes, 53206, I described what it's like to grow up in a poverty-ridden ghetto, right? And I only gave very minimal accounts of what it was really actually like. And I know people who have similar experiences can relate. And we don't all have the same experiences, but we may all relate to each other on one level or another because the Black struggle has been pretty consistent throughout America with very little exceptions here and there, right? But we became desensitized to certain traumatic things that happen around us, especially me. So much crime and negativity and trauma happened in such a short period of time that I used to think this shit was normal too. Because there's still people out there who think that the way that they're living, that the way the communities are being run, that the things that they witness and that they encounter and that they participate on a daily basis is normal. And I'm here to break it to you. Most of this shit is not normal. It's not okay. And it's definitely not healthy, nor is it helping contribute in a positive way to the community. It's been a long time of suffering. And even if you don't feel like you're suffering right now in this moment, even though, side note, the whole country, the whole world suffering right now. But let's just talk about the country. Inflation. I mean, hello. But yeah, in the Black community, it's been a long time of suffering. And most of us were raised to just get through it. Just get through it. Just another day. This is how life is. This is how it's always supposed to be. We were forced to believe that emotions made us weak. I still struggle with that today. I'm so detached from my emotions a lot of the time because growing up, I felt that I had to believe that I had to hide my emotions because being vulnerable made you weak, that it made you fragile, that it made you easily susceptible to harm, whether that was physical, mental, emotional harm. And as I grew up, as I progressed in life, I did not want to be fragile. And so as a result, I made a conscious effort to not be vulnerable. And the truth is, everybody is hurting in some way, shape, or form. We're all hurting. And most of us were not taught how to deal with pain in a healthy way. And that's just not true. And it's unfortunate that our parents and our grandparents and our great-grandparents were not given the resources necessary to deal with pain and trauma and grief. And so as a result, they were unable to give us the resources necessary to deal with those things. However, we cannot continue to make excuses for what we did not have back then because we have those things now. Or at least we have the knowledge to be able to research those resources and to implement positive strategies in our lives in order to cope and deal with past traumas. But we also have the opportunity to implement these positive mechanisms into the lives of our children and our children's children, and even, just people around us in our community in this present day. And in the year of 2023, it's just completely unacceptable to continue to make excuses. Like I said, we have these resources available at our disposal. The internet is an amazing tool, and it's the number one resource that we carry around in our hand every day on our phones. You know what I mean? And the fact of the matter is, if nobody else gonna tell you, I'm gonna tell you right now, what we're doing is not working. What we've been doing is not working. So we have the obligation, okay? We are all obligated to change what we're doing right now in our communities because it's not working. It's just not working. And I don't know how much more clear I can be on the fact that it is just unacceptable to keep kind of navigating through life almost in intentional ignorance. You know what I mean? We all know the fact of the matter is history repeats itself, and we keep allowing history to repeat itself because we're not learning from our history. We're not learning from the past. And outside of us needing to just acknowledge that there's even a problem, we need to acknowledge that this problem is everybody's problem, right? It's not just, okay, yeah, it's a problem, but it's not my problem because I'm fine, or it's not my problem because I don't want to deal with it. This is everybody's problem. And we really need to start sticking together. We need to come together and realize that we are one. We need to come together and realize that we are stronger in numbers, that sometimes you can't do everything on your own. Maybe you cannot lean on your own strength, but that's what your neighbor's shoulder is for, right? Pick up your neighbor when they down. Don't kick them when they down. There's a Bible verse, Ecclesiastes Chapter 4, verse 12, though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. Like I said, we are stronger in numbers, and it doesn't take a lot of numbers to increase your strength. We have to recognize that one person can't stand up and do this. And I spoke about this in part 1. We're waiting around for Martin Luther King part 2, Malcolm X part 2, you know what I mean? Rosa Parks part 2 to come up and make an impact when we can all band together to make this impact. And truly, we're doing ourselves a disservice by not coming together. And I have to ask the question, why is it so hard for us to do it? Like, why is it so hard for us to stick together, to stand as one, to support one another through the good, through the bad, through the ugly, through the indifferent? I feel as though in a lot of instances, we're so quick to throw one another away when we make a mistake. As if we're not all human, as if we're not all imperfect, as if we're not all sinners, and we all make mistakes. We need to begin to pick up the pieces of our lives to come together for a greater cause. The sooner we cultivate the mindset that when one wins, we all win, the greater life will be, the more enjoyable life will be. Another thing I talked about in part 1, if you haven't heard, and I know I released it a couple weeks ago, so maybe it's just not fresh on your brain, all the topics that were discussed. But I talked about how, people always reference when Black people get money, they leave the Black community and they never turn back. And so it's 2 sides to a coin, right? So one side is, I worked hard to get out of the ghetto or the trenches or just a bad situation, a bad neighborhood as a whole. And so I want to live somewhere that's more safe. I want to live somewhere with better opportunities. I want to live somewhere where I can have more than what I had when I was growing up. And that's fair. That's fair. I feel the same way. Don't feel bad for that. We all want better in life. But on the other side of the coin, it's the nature of not wanting to look back, not wanting to go back. And this isn't true for everybody, but just a general standard is I don't just want more than what I had when I was younger. I don't care who I left behind. And no, you can't take everybody with you, especially when your mindsets are not aligned. But you don't, what am I trying to say? You don't have to pick up the whole community and drag it on your back alone. That's not what I'm saying. However, if you have been afforded a better opportunity, it would be a great service to others to be able to go back and try to implement change. I'm a strong believer in it. If I can do it, you can do it too. If they can do it, I can do it too. You know what I mean? So having the capability to be able to work yourself into a better situation is commendable. It's an amazing thing. It feels amazing. It looks amazing. It's inspiring. But you know what I'm even more inspired by? Selflessness. Someone who is willing to turn around and lend a helping hand to someone who is currently in a situation that they used to be in. A lot of times we lack empathy because it's no longer a you problem. It's no longer important to you. So I don't know if y'all seen this trend a while back. Steve Harvey was saying to write a list of 300 things that you're wanting and expecting from God. And so I wrote out the list. I'm not at 300 yet because it's a lot to sit down and really think like, what is it that you want in life? But one of the things that I put on there is I want to be able to go back and help the city of Milwaukee, the neighborhood that I grew up in. If I was given $1 million today, I would want to take a large portion of that money to go back and help the 53206 area code because I grew up there and I know what it's like. And when I drive through that area, whenever I'm visiting home, it seems like it's consistently on a decline. And that hurts my heart because I used to be in the midst of the decline. And for me personally, it's not enough to just do well for myself. It's important to help those in need, especially when and if I have the capability to do so. Just food for thought. I wish that we embraced each other more. And what I mean by embrace is offer more grace to each other. Be more open to the differences within one another. I had a conversation the other day with a group of people and we talked about, being more accepting. So, sometimes people are ignorant, but ignorance can be corrected. Ignorance is basically just a lack of information. So some people are intentionally ignorant, like they choose to be one-sided and like be stuck in their ways. That's one side of it. But some people genuinely don't know or don't understand or were never taught or were never exposed to certain things or a certain way of life. And so their behavior reflects what they were exposed to. And again, it goes back to that empathy and even sympathy. Like it takes nothing to be understanding and be committed to, instilling change. I tell people all the time, like, it's okay to change your mind. Like I change my mind on things all the time. Well, not all the time, but I'm open to changing my mind if I'm presented with a new perspective. And everybody's not open to that, which is a problem within itself. We're all consistently growing, adapting, evolving. And so we should be open to change and not stuck in our ways. Like personally, I'm open to correction in a respectful manner. I'm always open to criticism as long as it's constructive. For example, maybe I've always done something this way because this is just how I've always done it, right? But I'm also a big advocate on working smarter, not harder. So if you present a new way for me to accomplish something or tackle something or deal with something in life, I'm going to be open to it. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to do it, but I'm open to it. I'm open to hearing your reasoning why you feel like this is a better way. We need to listen to understand and not listen to respond. Yet some of us are so closed-minded. It is like, no, it's my way or the highway. My way is right. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Well, I got news for you. I'm telling you something. And you don't know everything. And you're not always right. Like literally nobody is always right. Because why? Because nobody is perfect. And that's okay. Like that's totally okay. When I moved from Milwaukee to Dallas, I was in a different environment. I started to go to different places. I started to hang out with different people. I started to experience different things. And so now I'm able to look back and kind of reflect and realize that I was doing these things, hanging out with these people, going to these places. And it was totally okay. It was totally normal. It was totally fine for me until I was exposed to something different. Until I was around groups of different individuals who grew up in different places, who had different opinions, who looked through life's lenses in a different way. And we were able to have constructive conversations. And I was able to kind of navigate life a little differently. And vice versa. They were as well. Because we're all here experiencing the same life, but in a different manner. And I think it's important to hold people accountable. Like hold your friends accountable, hold your family accountable, hold yourself accountable to acceptance, communication, and correction, but also while holding people accountable. Okay. Hold them accountable while still offering grace and being patient, because we can all think of a time in our life where we didn't know better or weren't good at something or didn't fully understand. So, keep that in mind as you're holding people accountable. But don't just stand by idly watching people self-destruct, because it truly takes a village. And I think I've said this before. It doesn't just take a village to raise a child. It takes a village when you're in adolescence. It takes a village when you're an adult. It takes a village when you're in old age. And I don't know. I kind of sit back and wonder, when did we as a Black community stop being a village? Y'all remember the Black Panther Party? I know y'all do. I know everybody remember the Black Panther Party, but I feel like that when we speak about the Black Panther Party, the image that comes to mind is Black people kind of standing there, Black power, fists in the air, big afros, maybe a couple people got guns on their arms, their waist, their hips, whatever. But do we know why the Black Panther Party was really formed, like why it really came about and what their purpose was? The Black Panther Party's original purpose was to protect residents in Black neighborhoods from police brutality. Oh goodness, I can't talk. Police brutality. They challenged the police, confronted politicians, but even outside of the political aspect, the most important takeaway from this is their purpose was to protect the Black community. I didn't even learn until just a couple years ago that they provided food, clothing, and transportation. Like they had these different programs and resources in place to help better the community. And I feel like now when I think about the Black Panther Party, I always think about why it really took a village, and they understood that. That's why they provided these resources. Because if my neighbor is hungry and I have a surplus of food, why wouldn't I help my neighbor? Why am I holding this food hostage? Why am I hogging it to myself? If my neighbor needs transportation to school or to work, why, if I have resources or the capability to access resources, would I not want to aid my neighbor. And when I say neighbor, I don't quite literally mean the person across the street or the person next door. My neighbor, meaning my community and all the people around me. The members of the Black Panther Party wanted fundamental change because they realized that this was a us problem. This wasn't just, there's issues going on within my household, so I'm going to provide these programs just so the people in my house or the people in my family can have these programs. No, they recognize a lack within the Black community, and they stood up and took initiative to fulfill that lack and to help supply the village with the things they needed in order to prosper and to get by. And I think having just that outlook alone and that knowledge about who they were and what they stood for is aspiring within itself. So when I think of the Black Panther Party now, this is what I see. I see Black people coming together to help Black people. Because the fact of the matter is, we already know we at a disadvantage. This is just common knowledge. This is a fact. But instead of idly sitting by and accepting the disadvantage, they stood up and did what was necessary to instill change within the community. Unfortunately for us, the Black Panther Party is no longer around. Or I take that back because I've been seeing in different places like Black Panther parties like starting to pop up. But unfortunately, they're not as big, in present day. And dare I say, what they're doing is maybe not as impactful. I don't know. I think that sounds bad, but I'm going to stand on that. It's not as big now, and it's not as impactful as it was back then. And I think it can be as impactful, if not more now, if more of us were willing to stand up and take an initiative. And again, not just like turn a blind eye to certain things because it doesn't affect us directly. Our community has a problem. And our ignorance continue to create generational curses because we refuse to change. We keep letting these people, and I know y'all know who these people are, we keep letting these people play in our face. And then we fight amongst each other. Make it make sense. Me and one of my good friends were talking a while back about how we keep having these same conversations, and they're meaningless conversations. And they don't have to be meaningless conversations, but the constant debate, the constant dedication to misunderstanding one another is what makes this a waste of time and counterproductive. I mean, we can't even agree to disagree and just accept that, the way I want to live my life is not the way that you want to live your life, and that's okay. Like, why are some of us so committed to misunderstanding each other and picking a fight? But hold on, I'm going to break it down. I'm going to give you some examples. So one of the conversations that we keep having over and over again, and it's just almost like we not getting nowhere, colorism. And I have a whole podcast episode, 4 Colored Girls. is the name of the episode, where I talk about colorism, where I talk about team dark skin and team light skin, and where colorism stems from, and how it kind of came from your proximity to whiteness, and how people, mostly dark skinned people, are frowned upon because of the color of their skin. And colorism is real. And I'm not going to get into it because I got into it for almost an hour on the episode for Colored Girls. So you can go back and listen to that. But colorism is real. And the fact that a good percentage, I'm not even going to say majority, but a good percentage of the Black community can stand around and spew out of their mouth how it's not real is almost mind-boggling to me. Colorism is racism's sister. And it's unfortunate, but it's clear that some of us have an unconscious bias within. Well, we all have some type of unconscious bias, but we have an unconscious bias within us that prevents us from wanting to understand where darker skinned people come from when they speak on colorism. And I think it's important to understand that we should not continue to discredit someone's experience. Because just because something has never happened to you does not make it any less real. Does that make sense? It's important for us to understand our brothers and sisters so that we're able to build better relationships amongst each other. And that will ultimately help with the rebuilding of our community. Another conversation we keep having is this men versus women thing. And I know y'all know the thing that I'm talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot continue to be going at each other full force. It's always, should a man be paying the bills? Should a woman be cooking and cleaning? Who's the bigger cheater, men or women? Who's the bigger liar, women or men? Most recently, Tyler Perry got his black butt on whatever, I don't know, a podcast or something, and talked about how a woman should be okay paying all the bills and her man paying $100 for the light bill. First of all, my exact thought is, why should I have to be okay with that? But I'm not here to get into that debate, because we need to respect other people's preferences and other people's opinions, right? Just don't be blatantly ignorant about your preferences or, your opinions. Because at the end of the day, we're all going to do what works for us. So, for example, if I say I'm not willing to lay down next to a man every day and split the mortgage 50-50, then that's just not what I'm willing to do. So guess what? I will date men who are not willing to lay down next to a woman every night and sleep like a baby and split the mortgage 50-50. And that's fine. I know men who are like, no, we a team. We going to do this 50-50. And that's fine. Like, I'm not judging you for that. As a woman, you're dating a man who's going to do the 50-50 thing for you because that's what you prefer. As a man, you're going to date a woman who's doing the 50-50 thing with you because that's what you prefer. And I just feel like that's just what it is. And it's no judgment. It's just our preference. So why are we arguing about this? This is counterproductive. We keep having this argument. This is a joke. We're constantly having arguments on why black women are less desirable, why black men are dating white women or Hispanic women or Asian women. And now most recently, black women are like, oh, we're going to get on this train and start dating white men because we've had it up to here with these black men. Y'all, we got to be so for real. Nobody wins when the family is feuding. Ladies, we are not winning this war right now. Men, you are not winning this war right now. We're both losing. It's counterproductive, and quite frankly, it looks crazy. It looks insane. And like I said before, you devalue the whole community when you devalue each other. It's literally so simple. So while we're committed to making the other gender look bad, we're making everybody look bad. Okay? And we're going to save this conversation for another day. Where do we draw the line on having a conversation on if we going to split the bill at the restaurant evenly or if everybody going to pay for what they ate? So here's my take on it. Know your friends when you go out. Have effective communication. Have these conversations. Because I've gone out with my friends and we've had a $500 bill. And it's three of us. And we will split that bill evenly because I'm not about to sit up here and count, what everybody had. Because essentially we probably all had the same number of drinks. We share the appetizers. Our entrees were similar in price. So we split the bill three ways. It's simple. It's easy. That's what we agreed on. On the contrary, we've gone out before and been like, okay, this is what I got, this is what you got, and this is what so-and-so got. And we're going to pay for what we got, and that's just what it is. But we're able to effectively communicate that, and everybody can agree. I have not ever sat down at a dinner table and argued about who was going to pay. And judging or mistreating your friends because they don't want to pay for your steak when they had a salad is insane to me. And it makes me question the type of person that you are. Dear Black people, we've got to stop having these same conversations. Christians versus quote unquote new age spirituality. Now, these are two groups who are committed to understanding each other as if there is no middle ground. And actually, I will say, maybe you truly believe in your heart of hearts that there is no middle ground, that there's no way that Christianity and spirituality can be intertwined in any way. Okay, that's fine. That is so fine. But the dedication to proving that the other side is wrong, it's overwhelming for me, because I believe that there is middle ground for many different reasons. You can listen to The Perfect Christian. You can listen to my episode on spirituality and you'll understand my reasoning for that. But I'm not going to argue with you about it, because in most cases, people don't want to understand the other side. They believe that their side, right, is the truth and only the truth, and they don't want to hear from the other side. So I encourage you to stick to what it is that you believe truly in your heart of hearts, and try not to worry about what the other side is doing. I think that's where I kind of get frustrated and confused, that if you know that what you believe is real and true, then why are you concerned with what somebody else is doing? We have got to stop tearing each other down. I wish that we embraced each other's differences more openly and realized that no matter your personal preference on how you choose to live your life behind closed doors, every day when we walk out of the door, the front door of our home, of our apartment, whatever, that we're all Black at the end of the day. And in the grand scheme of things, we're all fighting the same war. We are not on different sides of this, or at least we shouldn't be. We're devoted to misunderstanding each other, or at least most of us have a scary devotion to misunderstanding each other when we should be sticking together. Because again, this is not a you problem or a them problem. This is a problem for the whole community. All right. We're moving on. Dear Black people, Black on Black crime is not real. Now, before you get your panties in a bunch, just hear me out. Let's just talk about crime as a whole, because really that's what this is. Okay? It's not Black on Black crime. It's crime. And the two largest components of crime is 1, poverty, and 2, proximity. So basically that means that the people who are more susceptible to committing crime would be people who live in poverty and people who are in close proximity to another. Like, they're most likely to commit a crime with somebody who's in close proximity to them. Intra-communal violence is something that happens in every community, not just the Black community. Because again, crimes happen based on proximity. So if I live next door to a Black person, I'm most likely to commit a crime against that Black person. If I'm white and I live next door to a white person, I'm most likely going to commit that crime within the proximity of my neighborhood to another white person. If I'm an Asian person and I live in an all Asian community, I'm more likely to commit crime within that community to another Asian person. Does that make sense? Like, are y'all following me? Are y'all catching what I'm throwing out here? Right. I swear there's more. So I did a little research. The rise in firearms death in America rose drastically in the year of 2020. And the reason I bring up firearms in this instant is because I feel like gun violence is often talked about mostly amongst people in the Black community. And yeah, gun violence is bad. Like, let's be clear. Gun violence is a problem, but it's a problem in America as a whole. And not just even America. Any countries with high gun possession have high gun violence. It's like a ripple effect. So I feel like a lot of times within the Black community, some of y'all have outrage at gun violence when it's like a famous person or like a well-known person. Then it's, oh no, gun violence, Black on Black crime. But gun violence is just an issue in America as a whole. I mean, how many school shootings have happened in the last year, in the last 2 years, in the last 3 years since 2020? Do you know? And why is it that if a white person walks into a school and shoots up a school, it's not, oh my God, white gun violence, white on white crime. It's just another school shooting. And I just feel like a lot of times in the media and on social media that anytime a white person does something to a Black person, it's like, oh, why are y'all mad? What about Black on Black crime? It's not Black on Black crime. It's just a crime. And we're allowed to be outraged at any type of crime. You know what I mean? Like, Black on Black crime shouldn't even exist. It should not be a term because crime is not exclusive to Black people. Gun violence is not exclusive to Black people. Violence is just a nationwide issue. Gun violence is a nationwide issue because humans are violent. Not all humans, but just mankind. History will show you that mankind is full of violence and sin. And if we just go back a little to the largest components of crime, so we talked a little bit about proximity. Let's go back to poverty. That's the number one component of crime. And can we kind of take a guess on what community is the most largely impoverished in America? You guessed it, the Black community. What Tupac say? I ain't never did a crime I ain't have to do. Some people commit crimes because they feel like it's their only option. And let's be clear, for the record, I'm not justifying crime. Like, crime is not okay at all. It's never okay to harm or take from somebody in any way, shape, or form. The point I'm trying to make is when people's back are against the wall, when they're in poverty, when they don't have things, they make decisions based on their current stance. And unfortunately, stealing, robbing, and sometimes even killing is a result of that. And that's just the reality. One of my favorite TikTokers said, Black on Black crime cannot be a scapegoat. We cannot continue to use Black on Black crime as a scapegoat. Police kills an unarmed Black man. Well, what about Black on Black crime? Are you guys not upset at Black on Black crime? Random white person unjustly kills a random Black person. Well, what about Black on Black crime? How can we be mad at other people when we're killing each other? We should be mad at everybody. We should be mad at the Black man that killed the Black man, the white man that killed the Black man, the white woman that killed the Black man. We should be mad at everybody. But Black on Black crime cannot continue to be your scapegoat. Like, let's just cut it out. And in all seriousness, if a Black person commits a crime towards any other race of person, including another Black person, they're more likely to be punished than if a white person commits a crime against a Black person. So it's a lot of factors that go into play. And my family is living in this devastating reality right now. Y'all know I've talked about my journey and my experience with the white woman who, in a drunken frenzy, killed my dad on New Year's Day. She wasn't sentenced to a day in jail. Exactly 1 year later, the roles were reversed. And I cannot make this up. A Black man killed a white woman, and the same intoxication manslaughter charge was given to him. He was not offered a bond. And I haven't checked in on his case, so I don't know how it ultimately ended. She was offered a bond the same day. So the point I'm trying to make is we're allowed to be in outrage when crimes are committed against Black people by any race of person. And a lot of times I feel like it's selective outrage, because if you truly cared about what you perceive as Black on Black crime, as gun violence, as any type of crime amongst our community, you would be more active in the community in order to institute a change. And that's kind of what this is all about. We need to be more active in the community to constitute change. There are events, organizations, movements. They're out there. Y'all just aren't aware because y'all don't care. And if we take out gun violence, it's almost the least of our problems with what's negatively affecting the Black community, with what's killing us. Can we talk about suicide because we don't prioritize mental health? Can we talk about domestic violence? I have never before in my life seen so much crime against women from men. At what point do we stop protecting women and children? Can we talk about the poor diet and poor health amongst our community? It wasn't too long ago, y'all. We didn't forget about y'all fighting over them chicken sandwiches. Why? People died over Popeyes. But gun violence is the number one problem. Sometimes we can really be our own worst enemy. Sometimes I sit back and I really think, as a Black person, nobody hates on you more than another Black person. Ain't that crazy? It be your own people. We so quick to throw each other away. Like, one bad experience with a Black-owned business and you're ready to write off all Black-owned businesses. See, it's why I don't do business with Black people. Sound familiar? However, we consistently add money into other communities, a white-owned business, an Asian-owned business, a Hispanic-owned business, a Indian-owned business. But if we have a bad experience with them, we're not going to be like, oh, I will never go to another Asian nail salon after the way they treated me up in here. Right? Oh no, I will never go to another white-owned business because their customer service is poor and I felt profiled. No, you're going to go right back in there and spend your money again. So I have to ask the question, why are we not willing to offer the same grace to our own people? I don't get it. I really need y'all to help me get it. And it's not everybody. This I know. Some people are very supportive of Black-owned businesses. I try to support Black people in any way I can. I'm like Issa Rae. I'm rooting for everybody Black. But that's not always the case. I mean, I've seen people who don't want to do business with another Black person because they can't get a discount. But why? Do you walk in all these other establishments demanding a discount? We have got to do better at loving and supporting each other. That is so important. Like we talked about earlier, we're already at a disadvantage. This we know. We had a long history of enslavement and abuse. Then let's add on institutional racism. All that has had a significant impact amongst our community, which is why I keep saying, I cannot say it enough. We are greater in numbers. We need to stick together. We need to come together. And I know, dealing with collective trauma for generations has impacted and shaped our perspective. But the good news is we don't have to continue to live this way. It's time to cut out the bullshit, take responsibility towards a genuine change within our community. And I do want to say, in order to be the change that our community needs to see, we must first change within ourselves, because the fact of the matter is you can't help somebody if you don't help yourself. But you got to put in the work. We have to put in the work. We need to start prioritizing mental health, rebuilding our relationships with ourselves. Most importantly, because this is number one, we need to put God first. Y'all need to start learning how to meditate. Y'all know how I feel about some meditation. Calm your mind. Reduce your distractions and meditate. We need to educate ourselves because history repeats. And if we don't know our history, it is destined to continue to repeat. Start going to therapy so you can identify your triggers and your traumas. Because once you identify them, you're able to start effectively navigating your way through life through a new lens. And once we begin to heal our own personal wounds, we can effectively heal our community. And that's what this is all about. Our village is broken, but it can be fixed. And we're doing ourselves injustice by continuously turning a blind eye. In the words of the great Mammy Till, what happens to any of us anywhere in the world had better be the business of us all. Dear Black people, it's time to wake the fuck up. No more excuses. My name is Kiana Brianne. This is the House of Trauma podcast. Don't forget to email me all of your advice questions to houseoftrauma@gmail.com. And I'll see you right here next week.